spent your whole life being babied almost in a way, you know, you can't go to the doctors without their approval, you can't do this without their approval, you can't do that, you can't do this. And then all of a sudden at 18, where I was 17 when I aged out, but you know, all of a sudden at 18, then it's all on you. And then you're like, but how? I've had everything done for me my entire life. Like, what? Like, how do I fill out a Medicare form? How do I go to settling? How do I do this? How do I do that? Like, it's, you're very kind of just, okay, you're no longer our responsibility.
What supports did you get while you were in the care system? And I guess too, like, for the amount of trauma that you'd experienced and the unrelenting trauma that you experienced as a very young child, and just, you know, what sort of supports were given to you?
When I was younger, there was a lot of supports, like especially as a child, like, you know, I was so traumatized. I didn't really walk and talk properly until the age of 5. Like, I was so pigeon-toed my feet. Like, even now as an adult, I actually still stand pigeon-toed a little bit because it's just habit. So a lot of support as a young child, but when I got older, there was just no support there. Like, they just kind of, because I was with this family for so long, they kind of just left us alone. So, like, we were kind of thankful in that way. Like, there was no intrusions constantly and all that sort of stuff like that. But then also, like, I got no support when my mental health was getting bad. And then they were like, oh, why is it so bad? And it's like, like, I don't know, maybe you guys should have checked in and offered some support. But it got to the point where there's just no support after a certain age. Like, there's the Create Foundation. They're okay. They're pretty good. But depending on where you are, if you're not in a capital city, they don't have programs set up. They had some in my hometown for a bit, but, you know, once that person decides to move on and do stuff, like, it's a lot of uni students that get involved. You know, once that person moves on, there's no more group meetings. You know, you can't go to camps anymore, and that really sucked. But it was good for a bit. I got to go to camps with a few other kids, and you got to speak to them, and just like, and that got me interested in peer support one day. So it's frustrating that there's not enough support from them because they are really cool. But
and I've heard really good things about Create Foundation, just in terms of young people saying that the camps and that, you know, advocacy that way, but, you know, they do a lot of advocacy, I guess, from what you're saying too. The camps were really helpful to meet other kids. And do you remember how old you were, Harmony, like when you were getting involved with Create, and that you found that helpful?
I was from about 16 to about 18.
Okay, yeah. And that was when you were based in a capital city.
So like, back in my hometown, like, it was kind of capital-ish, like 2 hours out of Sydney, so we're quite busy. But once the person who was kind of in charge of setting up those meetings and getting those camps, sort of, once she decided to do, you know, a master's degree, she just had no time. And I just wasn't in the mental headspace to take it over myself and then do it. Which was really frustrating, because I was actually nominated for Young Person of the Year in the local district because of my involvement with the Create, and because of the advocacy I had been doing with them.
But I relate to the fact of you acknowledging that you weren't ready for that, because after your mental health, and that's the thing that you have to handle a lot by yourself, like, because there was no support for that. And did you know in care, like, how to reach out for support, as in for your mental health? Was there any knowledge given to you by anybody? I'm hearing no, by the way, but I'm asking that question.
You know, they'd be like, oh, you know, you can go to Headspace, and Headspace is a great organisation. They're amazing, but they can't help with the serious stuff.
They're not.
And that's where we struggle, and that's where we drown, and that's where then we self-medicate. And that's where that cycle starts again.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're given these band-aid solutions and stuff like that, which is not to put any of those solutions down, because Headspace is absolutely amazing. But then their next idea for me was to go see a psychologist. He was great, but he'd only really dealt with children before. So all he wanted to do was play like cards and stuff. And I was like, no, I'm not into this. Like, and that was it. That was them trying. They were done. So there was not much support.
What I'm hearing is how huge for you to trust a psychologist, a male psychologist, like to actually step out towards that. I mean, that's just like, I guess, in my experience with young people, even leaving care at like the 18 onto it, they're not ready. Like they've just got too much going on, and it's just like, I don't want to go there, you know, because
you spent your whole life being babied almost in a way. You know, you can't go to the doctors without their approval, you can't do this without their approval, you can't do that, you can't do this. And then all of a sudden at 18, where I was 17 when I aged out, but you know, all of a sudden at 18, then it's all on you. And then you're like, but how? I've had everything done for me my entire life. Like, what? Like, how do I fill out a Medicare form? How do I go to Centrelink? How do I do this? How do I do that? Like, it's, you're very kind of just, okay, you're no longer our responsibility.
Congratulations for being nominated as Young Person of the Year for that region, but I'm not surprised because you have such a voice for change, Harmony. You really do. I'm just, as I'm listening to you, I'm just thinking people and leaders need to hear this. So that's just going on in my head. So thank you for that. And in terms of what you shared about your own mental health not being looked after, and what you shared with us prior about that not even being acknowledged, you know, that, you know, there's no reason why you should have, you know, I was shocked by that. So that's a testimony for you to be able to actually get to where you got to. Incredible, you know.
Yeah, we heard the same thing from Erin as well, you know, where, you know, even, you know, simple things just not taught to young people, you know, just everything's done for you. So when you do leave there, you're expected to.
I mean, the basic stuff like a mother and daughter does her hair, you know, your nails, makeup, how to use moisturizer. Like growing up, like I didn't know how to plait my hair. I had curly hair.